All right, pretty controversial story today coming from the massively popular podcast Spittin Chiclets. The crew was just back after mostly taking a break for the summer. They had lots of stories, including about an hour into today's episode, reports about Mike Babcock's early tenure in Columbus. Specifically, Paul Bissonnette reported that he was told by players that Mike Babcock has essentially been going through their phones. Now, Columbus jumped on this immediately and responded with statements from not only Mike Babcock, but also Boone Jenner, who was mentioned in Bissonnette's original reporting, saying that the characterization of the situation isn't accurate. After that, Bill Daly and the NHLPA followed up on the allegations, and they were basically satisfied after they talked to some players that, hey, nothing's really going on. I personally am not quite convinced. Now, I will let my bias show. I actually really enjoy the podcast Spittin Chiclets, but I do think there's more to this. Paul Bissonnette has stated that he was told what was going on specifically by multiple players in the NHL, and me personally, I trust what the guys say to each other in private about 1,000 times more than what is stated either publicly or to institutions within the NHL. Let's just say things frankly. Hockey has a history of covering up abuses towards players, including ones far more serious than this. There is sort of an expectation that what happens in the locker room stays in the locker room. I think there's the possibility that this was told to Biz, not realizing he would run with it without sort of the real intention of it being a bigger thing. And that extends to conversations with the NHLPA as well. I also think, and again, putting this bluntly, that coaches borderline abusing their players at the highest level of hockey isn't exactly uncommon, especially for the older generation. Google Mike Keenan player abuse. Or more relevantly, Google Mike Babcock player abuse. And what's more, professional athletes, NHL players, they often have the entirety of their lives essentially controlled during the season. I don't know. To me, it's not that outlandish, I guess. Now, I'm not saying it for sure happened, but I'm saying that everybody just absolutely willing to take these public-facing statements as 100% truth hasn't necessarily been paying attention to how hockey works. I also found this interesting tweet from former AHL assistant coach Jack Hahn, whom no one is talking about. He said around this time in 2019, Babs had a show us picture on your phone meeting with the Leafs and Marlies coaches. He continued saying, well, for us it happened without warning, but he doesn't have any idea of how it shook up in Columbus. I also feel like, again, people haven't learned from the Kyle Beach situation, and the experience of NHL players will be vastly different depending on your position within the lineup. A Boone Jenner, a Johnny Gaudreau, their power dynamic is different when they're dealing with Babcock compared to, say, a fourth line or marginal player. Coaches will do different things, and that's why, and again, nothing against those guys, I don't necessarily think their statements say the whole story. So I think maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, but I am also seeing, honestly, I think some bad faith takes on the situation. This is going to annoy some people, but being for about a year now in the hockey media scene, Spittin Chiclets is the biggest media property by far. Like, it's not even close, and I honestly do think that there is some both jealousy to that and also general dislike because of, let's be honest, Chiclets' crassness and their general association with Barstool. And I get that, but I also think comments like this one are unfair. Nothing wrong with taking an interest in your players. The fact that so many took that podcast with any level of seriousness on a subject of this matter is concerning. Let's all consider the source. Like, the source is players. Don't believe players who are reporting, even if it is just mild abuse because it's being reported on by Chiclets. It's just a really bad take. Anyway, I think you can make your own determination on this. I don't know. When it comes to Mike Babcock and player abuses, if players are saying it happened, I believe them. Let me know your thoughts below.